Okay. Thank you so much for hanging in with us. It has been a little bit of a technical glitch today, but we persevered. That's why they call it live, and that it isn't a an edited time. Here comes Sue back here. Okay, going live. Navigate and conquer in order to achieve their personal and professional success. I'm Dr. RISA RYGER, clinical psychologist, and I'm an expert in change. Here's Sue. Yay. Okay. Success. I can hear you and see you.
Hello.
Okay.
Thank you.
And hello. And so I'm Dr. RISA RYGER. I'm an clinical psychologist, expert in change, and I help people make positive change at any point. Now, you can't have positive change without disruption. You need to disrupt a thought, a feeling, a belief, a behavior in order to create your 10.0 life. And that's what this series of conversations is all about. And without further deliberation, we have Sue on. Welcome, Sue. And I'm going to now introduce you. As happens is the case, the women I have on are so incredibly accomplished that I need to read bios and not have them memorized. So Sue is the founder of Centerprises and Sue Phillips Fragrance, and is a recognized international fragrance expert, author, speaker, marketer, and entrepreneur. That is a word I do not use very often, and I'm going to just need to keep practicing that. And she began her fragrance journey at giant beauty companies at Elizabeth Arden and Lancome and training, product
Are you there?
development and marketing. But it was Tiffany and Company, where she was hired as executive vice president. And Sue, with the resurgence of Tiffany and the opening of their cafe and all, Sue created the first Tiffany perfume. The first Tiffany perfume that she established her reputation as a fragrance expert. And from there, she established her companies,
I'm alive.
Centerprises, and created fragrances, fragrance for Burberry, Trish, McAvoy, Lancaster, Avon, and many others. She's a motivational speaker and has written her book, The Power of Perfume. In addition, and we'll talk about this, that Sue has shifted some of her work to address the issues that have come up from COVID. And we're going to be talking all about that. So, Sue, I know we had some technical glitches. We are women, if nothing else. We are women who persevere. We do not give up. We have to pivot. We've got to shift around, but we get to where we need to be. And where we need to be is here together right now. So in this introduction that I've given you, could you please hop in and please let us know what I haven't told the audience about you that we really need to know?
Well, my goodness, thank you so much for having me, and I apologize for the few delays. And also, my office phone keeps on ringing, and I don't know how to turn that off by muting it. So, forgive me. I just had a call, and I do get calls all the time on both phones. I think we just have to go digital and then cell phones, so nobody else can call. But that's not a problem. Anyway, thank you so much. So, my journey is interesting. I'm originally from South Africa. And I had never in my wildest dreams thought I'd be in business, that I'd be in the cosmetic industry, that I'd be in New York. And my entire journey has been serendipitous, which is fascinating because if I had planned it, it wouldn't have happened. So I came to New York to really be, I always wanted to be in the theater world. And I had actually auditioned for RADA, Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London. because at 10 years old, I was in my first play and I had gotten the theatre bug. So I always thought I wanted to be an actress, and I went to London, of course, and I auditioned. And out of maybe 3,000 people, there were only possibly 10 spots. And because I was from South Africa at that time, I think there was a bias because South Africa was, not on the forefront of theatre and television and entertainment because of the apartheid situation. So I had auditioned and I really tried hard, but I didn't get in. And I came to New York. My brother was living in New York, and I just fell in love with the energy of America and New York. And because of the political situation in South Africa, I decided to immigrate here. So 7 months after my first visit, I was here in New York. And of course, I went to a headhunter and I went to immigration attorneys to try and see how I could get in. And the one immigration attorney said to me, well, forget it. We've got 20,000 out-of-work singers and actors. We don't need another one. What else do you do? And I said, well, my mother always said I should have something to fall back on, which was an executive secretarial course. And he said, were you any good? And by the way he asked me the question, I knew that was my ticket to America. I said, yes, I was great. He looked at me, he saw me, he knew that I was articulate, he liked how I sounded and how I looked. He said, can you start on Monday? I said, no, I haven't done this for a long time. I'd have to do a refresher course. And that's what I did. I realized that in order to achieve my ambitions of coming to be in New York and to really absolutely be be legal, that I would have to do that. And so I did. I got my immigration card, and a year to the day I went for different interviews. One was to be in banking, which is not for me. One was to be in fashion design. At the time, I didn't think I was really much into fashion. I was going to turn off so they said the connection is not good. And then the third one was to be at Elizabeth Arden. And I was so excited because I knew that cosmetics and theatre and show business, there was a synergy. So that's what I did. I got into the cosmetic industry. And basically the rest is history. I was at Elizabeth Arden for 6 years in training and product development and marketing. And then Tiffany hired me as marketing director for fragrance and men's skincare. And then, Lancome hired me for fragrance and men's skincare. And then Tiffany hired me as executive vice president. And so now I absolutely fell in love with America and my business. And so I've had my own business now for many, many years. And I've created major brands, major products for celebrities, for major iconic companies. I do team building events, corporate events. Everything that I do has a sensory aspect. We do corporate team building events, all kinds of events with scent in mind. We do scent dinners. I've created a multi-sensory dinner where every fragrance every course has a fragrance, flavor, and wine component. I call it sip, sniff, and savor. You sip the wine, you sniff the matching fragrance, and then you savor the food. So I always take people on a multi-sensory fragrance journey.
I love that. Please sign me up, help me in for the next one. Sounds fantastic. Okay, so I just want to take a moment and just highlight for our audience that you came in with one idea of being in theater, and that didn't work. So you needed to make a shift. You needed to change the picture in your head, and that you weren't sure exactly, if we talk about like changing the channel, that you didn't even know what channel to go to. And that when the opportunity came up, whatever the ad opportunity was, you jumped on and you said yes. And then you figured it out. And one of the things that we know is that oftentimes we wait to feel like, I know enough, I know enough, I know enough. And that it's harder to feel our own confidence and our kind of being in a growth mindset and saying, well, I don't know this yet. Not that I'll never know it, but I don't know this yet, but I'm going to know this. So this is just an extraordinary use of all of your talents. So keep going with your journey here, Sue.
You know, it's so interesting because the interesting thing is, you know, growing up in South Africa, we had a real communication issue. First of all, you couldn't talk about anything important. You couldn't talk about sex. You couldn't talk about drugs or religion or finance or anything of of politics. You couldn't talk about anything political or anything food, sex related or financially, because it was such a closed society. And so growing up in that kind of society where everything is very kept close to the vest and you didn't brag or say to anybody, this is who I am, da, da. No, it was very much more discreet. Suddenly I come to America where everything is so open. Everybody knows everything about anybody. And when he said to me, you know, were you any good? I sort of thought for a nanosecond, well, do I be modest and say, well, no, not really? Or do I realize that this is my ticket into America? And I jumped at that. I said, yes, I was good. And I think one has to, in life generally, you know, modesty is important. You don't want to be braggadocious, but at the same time, you don't want to distill your good points and you don't want to inhibit your good points by being overly modest by saying, well, no, I wasn't really good. If you were the head of the class and you got 25 distinctions, well, you don't want to say, well, no, I wasn't very good. You want to talk about your accomplishments in a very authentic, complimentary way that doesn't sound like you're bragging, but at the same time, it tells people that you know what you're talking about. And I think that that's what I've learned in America, truthfully, that it's important to express who you are, be confident, but don't be overly braggadocious, if you know what I mean.
Yes. So Sue, I think you've answered part of it, but what is it that you've needed to disrupt inside yourself in order to create the success that you have achieved up to this point?
You know, I think I know this sounds very trite, but I have three sort of mantras or three aspects that have guided me. Number one is never give up. I literally will navigate my way through various scenarios and I will never give up unless somebody finally at the last minute will put their hands in front of me and say, no, stop, stop, stop. That's not going to happen. But until that time happens, I will find ways and navigate my ways to make sure that I can achieve what I set out to. That's the first thing. The second thing is to really love and be passionate what you do. And that also sounds trite. But I firmly believe that if you are engaged in what you do and you really love what you do and it fulfills you, but it also fulfills others and you can help others, then that's an important thing. You know, I used to be an adjunct professor at LIM College and FIT, and I would say to my students, don't just become a doctor or a lawyer or a professional person because your parents want you to. You have to find the pathway that most resonates with you. And if your doctors and if your families are in the medical and legal profession, like I actually had clients the other day, and this is it's an amazing story. The lady was a doctor, the husband was a lawyer. The lady's father was a lawyer. The husband's father was a doctor. So between the two of them, they had medical and legal, you know, blood running through their veins. But they are both passionate, and their daughter wants to be a doctor. And I said, well, did she choose that, or did you kind of refer her to it? They said, no, she chose it. So I think people have to find what they love to do, because throughout my journey, of course, there have been difficulties, there have been challenges, and there will always be challenges and always be difficulties. But if you really love what you do, you can navigate those challenges in a much better way than if you are just stuck in a job because, you know, somebody told you you should be in it. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you're talking about, what I'm hearing from you is that you're talking about really developing your vision of success and not living somebody else's idea of what success should be. And you have gone from theater, acting, and being in the cosmetics industry, how did you make the pivot? How did you make the shift to fragrance?
Well, when I first started Elizabeth Arden, and they were looking for a fragrance training director. And at the time, I was working in the company, and I was actually the executive assistant to the president. That's how I got in. And at night, I'd go theater, acting and singing. And so they knew that I could perform in front of people. And then when the position opened for national training director, my boss at the time, the president, said, Sue, you'd be great in training. I said, well, what's training? And he said, you'll train the people behind the counter.
Great question.
So I said, that would be great, because they knew now through my experience that I was able to stand up in front of people and perform, and that I was an actress. And so he said, well, you'd have to go to Macy's and learn the fragrance industry and learn how to talk to people, how to address the customer, how to determine what fragrance the customer wants, to really understand customer relations and interface with customers. And so I said, well, I am a college graduate. I really don't want to go to Macy's. And he said to me, it'll be the best experience you ever had. And it was, because it was amazing. At the time we were selling these fragrances, beautiful fragrances by Karl Lagerfeld, Chloe and Lagerfeld. And those were the two prestige brands that Arden had. And so there was a different mindset about designer fragrances. And I go back to my background. My mother was an amazing artist, an amazing calligraphist. She always had beautiful art and music and lovely flowers in her home. And so she had created an ambiance. So when I was learning about fragrance at Macy's and talking to people, I would sort of bring those aspects into my conversation with the people, talking about the beautiful notes and how the notes would smell, and the different components of fragrance. And so I learned basically fragrance on the job. And then 3 months later, after I'd had my orientation, I then became officially the national training director, and I traveled around America. And what I did was I set up these training schools to motivate and inspire the beauty advisors who were selling fragrance in the stores. I had a beautiful room set up with music playing, lovely flowers in the room, gorgeous visuals of the brand. So when the beauty advisors came into this dull conference room, it suddenly transformed into the world of Chloe or the world of Lagerfeld. And I had fragrance in the air, and just explaining to them the magic and the mystery and the background of Karl Lagerfeld and Chloe fragrance, they were so pumped and so motivated that once they got out of the school, they went back to the counter, and they were so inspired with the knowledge that sales would go sky high. So they were able to actually measure and quantify the results of the training schools based on the results in the sales in the department stores.
So that's beautiful, because what I'm hearing from you is that when people came in to get the training, that you did more than just tell them a bunch of facts. That what you did was really think about, well, who's coming in here? How am I going to help them feel connected to what we're doing,
Yes.
right? And give them an experience that, sometimes, we hear it's not about what you say to people, it's how you make them feel. And that the felt experience that they had of what you created is what they took in addition to the information, but that felt experience is what propelled them and moved them forward to do what they were doing with such conviction, because you were communicating your passion and the beauty of it. And sometimes people think, well, if you're passionate, you're going to sound like this all the time. You're going to sound very intense. But you communicated passion in a way that was accessible to others.
Yes, and the other thing is that there are technical aspects of any product that have to be imparted. Whether it's a fragrance or a cosmetic or a fabric, or you need to know the technical aspects. Well, is it a perfume? Is it an eau de parfum? Is it a silk jacket? What is it? But for me, I would rather, instead of me saying, well, this is the top note, this is the middle note, this is the base note, this is the container, this is how what you do. That's so boring. What you have to do is paint a picture, tell a story. Paint a picture and tell a story about what happens when you spray this fragrance on. Yes, you're going to spray it on. Sure, it's great to spray. But what happens when you feel that fragrance, when you inhale that fragrance, when you try it? Does it make you feel sexy? Does it make you feel confident? Does it make you feel so, motivated that you can be whoever you want to be? I mean, it's the emotion that it evokes that I like to express and try and instill, rather than, well, this is the top note, it's flowers, this is the middle note, this is the, who cares? When you eat a meal, you don't say, well, the first note that you're going to try is a lettuce, and then you're going to try the tomato, and then you're going to try this. No, it's what does that food, what does that meal mean to you? Is it beautifully constructed? Does it taste well? How does it make you feel? So I think we're missing a lot in the industry by not really going in that area, and that's what I try and do.
So, scent, I'm sure you know this, but scent is our oldest
And the
sense
most powerful.
and the most powerful. And I think this is the perfect time for us to really take the next step in what you've done and how you brought your work. I mean, who could have imagined, and I love this, which is that who could have imagined that the journey you were on, theater and then training and all of this, that in the training and of what you heard was, oh no, but I've been to college, and they're saying, no, you go to Macy's and you do this. And you said, and you were down for it, and you said, okay, and you went forward with it. And then COVID happened and everyone was upended. And please tell our community what you did to help serve and be creative in what you do for COVID and people suffering from COVID.
Thank you so much. So when COVID happened, I had a boutique downtown in Tribeca called the Scentarium. Everything I do has a word of scent in it. Enterprises is my company, the Scentarium. I'm a entrepreneur, an entrepreneur with scent. So I had to close the Scentarium because there was nobody down there in business. It had come to a standstill. And so
Yeah.
I wrote my book. And I didn't know really what to call it, except finally I came up with the Power of Perfume. And how prophetic was that? Because the day after it was launched, NBC wanted to do a story about it. And they contacted me. They said, Sue, we actually have a long hauler. We'd like you to see if you can help her. I didn't even know at the time what a long hauler meant. But basically it meant somebody who'd not been able to sense their smell for months and months and months at a time. And I explained that, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but I know the power of fragrance and I will certainly try. So I had developed 18 different fragrances. And each fragrance is a beautiful blend on its own, but when you combine it with 2 or 3 or 4 others, you can get something really beautiful, very unique, very signature oriented. And so I took this woman on the fragrance journey, which I now call a scent healing journey. Went through each of the blends. 1, she could smell, no, 2, 3, nothing, 4, nothing. Undaunted, we kept on. By the time she got to the 14th one, she suddenly stopped and she said, oh, I smell something and it's beautiful. And she started to cry. It was such a powerful emotional moment. She had not been able to smell or taste for 15 months. And suddenly she was able to identify it. And the story went viral. And so many, many people have contacted me now who've lost their sense of smell of COVID. That's the only good thing about COVID. It accelerated the awareness of how important our olfactory sense is. Because without it, you can't taste because they're so connected. And so, through the passion that I have for fragrance and the power of perfume, I was able to help many, many people. And I still do today. People contact me because thankfully COVID is over now. But the lingering effects of anosmia, that's what it's called, anosmia, is the lack of sense of smell. Some of that has still kept on.
Yes. So I just want to bring in a little piece of science here for a moment, which is that our sense of smell is so runs so deep in us. And so we have two kinds of memory. We have implicit memory and evocative memory. And so our implicit memory is memory that just comes to us. We're not looking for it. Evocative memory, which has happened to me like a lot, and I'm sure for all of us, it's like, what was that song again? What was that dish again? And you're trying to conjure something up. You're constantly trying to remember. With implicit memory, you walk into a room and you smell something, and all of a sudden you remember. You have this memory of, oh, this is familiar, or you have a memory of being in someone's kitchen or being in a garden. And that with scent, that it really gets to something so basic in us that just sits there, and we can't necessarily say, oh, I'm going to remember this. But man, when it hits you, it's right there, and it just comes back to you in a very powerful way. You walk into someone's kitchen and you remember a dish that somebody in your family cooked or a relative cooked who's deceased. And so it's really just so powerful. And we oftentimes don't give it enough power because it doesn't come with
Right.
language. It's not remembering an idea. It's remembering it. There's an emotional component. It's deep, don't you
Oh,
think?
it is so deep, and I tell people it is the one sense that connects memory and emotion, and also smell and taste. And so those four aspects, memory, emotion, smell, and taste, are so powerful. And that is why our sense of smell is so powerful. I live in New York now, and I will say that usually in the spring or the fall, when there's a change of season and then the wind changes direction, I could be walking towards my boutique or to a place, wherever it is, and suddenly I'll smell something that I literally haven't smelled in years, and it'll take me right back to when I was a little girl growing up in South Africa. It's just fascinating that out of nowhere comes this aroma in the air. It could be a plant, it could be a food aroma, it could be just anything, but it
Yeah.
just takes me back, and it is very, very powerful.
So Sue, what is your next disruption?
Well, you know, last year I went to Dubai, and the people contacted me and they said, we've been watching you on LinkedIn and following your footsteps and your pathway for a long time. We think you can be the Joe Malone of America. And that was a huge compliment. But I said, well, I want to be the Sue Phillips of the world.
You
And
go for it. Uh-huh.
that, in a way, that gave me the confidence of, wow, if people recognize me from Dubai and they see my LinkedIn and my Instagram, my profiles, and they see my journey, well, why can't I be a brand? And so my next disruption is really building my brand. I would like to, we should have actually had it done this October, but there were issues, so I disbanded that partnership. But um, I really feel that through the work that I'm doing with fragrance, for COVID survivors, and also for Alzheimer's was very important to me. Sadly, my mother got it. And, because again, memory and fragrance are so connected. I really want to develop a foundation to help those with Alzheimer's, to help those with COVID, so that the disruption that I want to create is going to be a positive disruption through the power of fragrance and through the passion that I have for fragrance, to turn it into something worthwhile to really help people, not just the commercial aspect and, walk down the street and somebody say, would you like a spray? And you go to Macy's or Bloomingdale's and they spray you. I mean, that's fine and dandy. And, when we wear fragrance, it makes us feel special and confident and beautiful. But the deeper roots of that are to really help people and create a foundation so that Alzheimer's can be hopefully eradicated and nausea can be eradicated, and that just through my passion for fragrance, I can do some really good things with it.
That's so beautiful. And I would love to support you in this next disruption. It's a disruption that the world needs, and I think you are the person to help carry it through with such perseverance. And I'll show you. I have a framed. It looks like Scrabble cubes, and I got it from London, and I keep it with me. I don't have it in front of me right now, but I will show you. And it says, "Never, never, ever give up."
I agree.
And that's the way to go. So, Sue Phillips, thank you so much. The woman who is elevating fragrance scent in New York and beyond, one nose at a time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for
And
this opportunity.
the changing how people feel, because at the moment when you are carrying that scent, you feel different. You just feel different. And I'll just share with you, I realized that during COVID, I was doing a live stream, and and that part of my ritual of getting ready was, before I went on screen, I would spray my
Right.
scent on, because that was part of what was getting me going and part of my experience. And so don't deny, bring your senses into you. Don't forget your sense of scent. And Sue, can't wait to see you in this I'm sure it was beautiful, beautiful space that you have, where you're doing so much good for all. Thank you so much. Everyone, thanks so much for coming in today. Remember, positive change can happen at any point. And for those of you who missed today, you'll be able to find it. And don't forget, you can find Sue on Instagram, on LinkedIn. She is imminently findable. If you're not looking, smell your way there. Sue, you want to give us
You know,
a
just
clue
funny
on this?
enough, last night I was on Clubhouse. I don't know if you know Clubhouse, but there's a
Sure.
new app now that is trying to be counteractive to Twitter. So it's called Threads. This is the new app that Elon Musk has put down, in contrast to Mr. Zuckerberg. So I was down on Threads. So ladies and gentlemen, there's another app that we have to contact with, Threads. Besides Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, TikTok, there's so many. Now there's Threads. So I'm on Threads at Scentfully Sue. So there's another way to
Well,
find us.
beautiful, beautiful. And if you haven't, please follow me on Instagram. Please tell your friends. Important content help make your day and parts of your life more positive, because positive change can happen. And Sue and I are going to stay on for a moment to take our moments of photos, so that we can have a cover for this fantastic interview. We persevere, my
Yes,
friend, don't we?
absolutely. Thank you for all
Okay,
you
so here
do.
we are. You ready?
Yes,
You ready for your first? Ready for our
sure.
first?
Thank you.
One more?
Yes.
Talk to you soon. Can't wait. And remember, next time, I've saved
Well,
a seat for you.